Our good friend Sam Kahn, theathletic.com, joins us, Paul Catalina and David Smoke. What are your thoughts? Texas has a great depth chart pretty much across the board, and they have Jaden Blue, who's phenomenal, among others, but the loss of CJ Baxter, that news that came down official today.
Yeah, it's tough for Texas, certainly, just because he's a really talented guy. He was a five-star recruit coming out of high school for a reason. He earned the start in the season opener last year for a reason. He's really good. They really like what he brought to the table. I think he could do a lot, both in the running game, in between the tackles. Also, could do a lot in the passing game and be a real asset as someone as a receiver out of the backfield. And it's a tough loss. As talented as Texas is, it's tough for them. It's tough for CJ. And I think it adds a little bit of intrigue to a team that we all have high expectations for because they're number 4 in the preseason coaches poll. But they are replacing a little bit, especially offensively. They bring back those 4 starters in the O-line. They bring back Quinn Ewers, but all that skill talent around him, it's all new. And CJ was going to be one of those returning faces that I think would have brought a little bit more comfort level to Texas. Now you turn to Jaden Blue, who I think flashed really well last year, and I think he's tremendously talented. But now it's up to your Trey Wisners and your Jared Gibsons and some others in there to step up and play bigger roles in this offense for Texas.
Sam, they do it. They replace every skill player. What is a bigger replacement? Replacing those skill players or replacing the defensive line and the linebackers that they lost?
I think it's the defensive line and the linebackers because I trust with the talent they've recruited and Steve Sarkisian's offensive acumen. I trust that they're going to be fine offensively. I think Jaden Blue's going to be just fine. I think the receivers they portal are just going to be really good. There's no clone for JT Sanders, but I think Amari Nyblack was a really good acquisition, and Gunnar Helm and Juan Davis I think are going to be totally fine at tight end. Replicating Tavondre Sweat and Byron Murphy is just not something you can do. It's just not. And that's nothing against Texas or its depth chart. They just don't have those guys are not walking around there. I mean, even the top programs would have trouble replacing those guys. And I say, when I say top programs, I mean the Georgias, the Ohio States, the Alabamas, who have consistently recruited at the top 5 level over and over and over for the last 10 years. Even they have trouble replacing those kinds of guys. And that's why Texas had to hit the portal to go get some D-tackle help this offseason. And I think that's very much a work in progress. I think if there's a big question mark on this Texas team, it's that right there up in the interior. Replacing Jalen Ford, also not going to be easy. Jalen Ford is one of the best linebackers in the country. But I do feel a little bit better about their prospects of linebacker because Anthony Hill, I think, is ready to break out after flashing as a freshman. They have David Bendo, who's a veteran who's been around for a long time. They got I think they've got enough talent there that I feel comfortable with them at backer. It's that D tackle up the middle. That's the one where I want to see. And it's not even just the starters. Alfred Collins, I think, is a good player. I think Vernon Broughton's a good player. It's not necessarily just about those two. It's about the next guys because those two were getting 300 snaps last year, spelling Murphy and Sweat. It's can the guys behind Collins and Broughton bring it to another level, and then can the guys behind them make sure there's no drop-off when they come in.
What are your thoughts about the NCAA coming down on Jim Harbaugh, which he'll never have to serve that time? I guess he will. It's on, the clock is running, but about that when he's not going back to college football.
No, he's not. I was talking about this phone this morning. Stu Mandel wrote about this in his mailbag today because someone asked about the potential penalties that could come down the pike off the Connor Stallions case, which of course is different from this. But there's not much I don't think that can be done because you do the show cause, but like you said, Jim Harbaugh's not coming back. The NCAA has gotten away from postseason bans, and for good reason, because you don't want to penalize teams and players that were not part of violations committed years ago because the investigation and enforcement process takes so long. I mean, you guys obviously are familiar with that as well, just how long the damn Baylor investigation took. It takes so long, and so punishing people for things that happened way before they were even on campus is kind of ridiculous. So you can't do that. It seems to be that the NCAA's move is going to be like it was with the Tennessee case, where said they fined Tennessee $8 million. Jeremy Pruitt got a show clause. I think they got some recruiting restrictions. I think that's about as much as they're going to do. But I'll be interested to see how this all plays out. But yeah, Harbaugh, I mean, it's going to be like Teflon, because I don't anticipate him coming back. But even if he does, he can come back after the show clause is over. He wouldn't be the first coach to do it. Wouldn't be the last.
Yeah, I mean, 64 when the show cause is over, to me, I just don't think that's going to happen. Do you think that he'll maybe get eaten alive in this Connor Stallions thing when everything comes out?
I don't know. It's interesting. It's certainly when you read what some of the stuff in the draft notice of allegations that the NCAA has, it seems like they have a decent amount of evidence. It's really interesting and intriguing. I don't think the Connor Stallion stuff, I don't know that that's going to get him. It's going to be the lack of cooperation, so to speak. That I think is what would come back to bite Harbaugh in this whole deal. Because I think there's one thing when you get found, responsible or liable for allegations that they bring, but it's another thing if you're not cooperating, which it doesn't seem like so far, at least from everything we can tell. Tom Mars, of course, Harbaugh's attorney, would have a different take on that based on everything he's posted on Twitter the last couple of days. But yeah, I think if you don't cooperate, certainly the NCAA seems to want to come down harder.
So I saw your reaction, and when I first saw it, I snickered with Baylor and their coaches' T-shirts about "We pay players." That was a quote that actually Dave Aranda gave us at Big 12 Media Days in Vegas. And it kind of went all over the place. And I first was like, oh, damn. And I knew what would happen, that there would be a contingent that thought it was great, and then there would be some that were offended and clutched their pearls. How did you react to what you saw?
I thought it was great. I loved it. It was hilarious. The other reaction, the third reaction that you didn't mention, was that people are going to be like, yeah, and so our schools have been paying players too. That's nothing new. But people who don't follow Baylor on a daily basis don't really understand that Baylor has not really been in the NIL game in the same way that everyone else has. Everything was very much everybody gets the same, and Dave Aranda was not heavily involved in it. I know you guys have talked with him and Mac Rhodes about that at length over the last year. I've talked to Mac Rhodes and Dave a little bit about that as well. And Baylor, and I wrote about this when I went over there this spring, Baylor had to change its approach in NIL. And guess what? When they did, all of a sudden you see difference in recruiting rankings. You see different in transfer portal acquisitions, because now this is what it costs to play now. But that was a very smart marketing move by Baylor to take a quote that Dave Aranda said at Media Days, or to you guys, if I remember correctly, that went viral, and capitalizing on it, because not only did they make the T-shirt, but they're going to make the proceeds go to the NIL, which is tremendously smart move on their part. And so I got a kick out of it. I also got a kick out of it with Keenan Hall being one of the guys wearing the shirts, because I know Keenan a little bit, have known him since he was, I think, at Southern Illinois. He's a really good guy, really good coach. And I don't know, the whole thing, the picture of him and Powledge together, the bold text, the gold on the green shirt, the whole thing I thought was really well done. And it got people talking. And I think that's what you want to do. And with your Baylor coming off the season they come off of, with the hot seat situation that Dave is on, anything you can do to get people talking about something other than that is good.
One of the things that a lot of people missed the point, and you mentioned that, a lot of people did, is that, well, yeah, but apparently you're not paying them enough, or you're paying the wrong guys, you're 3-9. No, the story is they weren't. And they weren't aggressive, as you mentioned. They were behind the curve, and now they've got this run, whether they were 3-9 or not. And so there was out of that a lot of time. Now, I also think that there are certain schools that are allowed to do that. There's certain things, certain schools are allowed to just pretty much have any kind of a swagger. I was told by somebody on the staff that said, we are no longer going to hide who we are as far as, trying to get out there and get ahead in the recruiting run that they're on. He goes, we're not going to be bullied. And I think it's because they kind of feel like because they were late to the party, maybe they got bullied by others who were doing pretty well when it comes to recruiting.
No doubt. And I mentioned this last week after it came out with the photo. They went from person over player to we pay players. And
yeah.
That's a striking change, because what has been the image of this program under Dave Aranda, and particularly the last couple of years, it's been the person over player. And Dave has been very honest and candid with everybody about how he does not want relationships to be transactional. He wants them to be genuine. He wants to build a rapport. I think Dave, in a big way, is very old school in that way, in the way he wants to recruit, retain, and develop. But the game has changed, and if you don't change with it, you will not survive. And Dave understood that, which is why he marched into Matt Brown's office last fall, right before the West Virginia game, and gave him the whole pitch about how he's going to change. And it turns out, here we are almost a year later, it's not lip service. They've made all the changes, and you can see it, again, in the results of the players acquisition that they've had so far. And so it's a testament to him. It's a credit to him. It's a credit to Baylor. It's an infrastructure. You can see from the NIL and all the other stuff around the program that things have changed there in a tangible way. And that's what you have to do. You have to adapt. Now, and I think we all forget this too. NIL is only 3 years old. Okay. We are still early in this, but it happened so fast, and people try to figure it out so quickly that even if you took an approach like Baylor that was a very tepid one at the start, which is probably not necessarily a bad way to look at it. When you talk about major changes to a sport that hasn't changed for so long, I can understand taking a tepid approach and being careful, but things have changed so rapidly that they found themselves behind the 8 ball, and now they've done it, and I think it's made a big difference. But you're right. There's no sense in hiding who you are, and there's no sense in minimizing the fact that you're going to have to pony up to get players. That's just the reality of college football. So why pretend that you're not doing it? I think it's a credit to Baylor for doing it.
Well, look, one of the best ways you can help a person is give them money, so it still kind of works. So I'm person over player. I mean, I'm not going to knock it. Sam, what do you envision for Texas Tech coming down the line if they can keep a quarterback upright for the majority of their games?
I think the potential is there. I would say I do want to see how they play up front. That's another big issue, I think, for them. You love Taj Brooks. You love Baron Morton if he's healthy. I do like that they went and got another quarterback in the portal as reinforcements, because you don't want to get in a situation like you had last year where you're playing a true freshman in the middle of the season. So I think all those things have been good. I'd really like to see, obviously you've heard a lot about Micah Hudson. I'd like to hear more about the other guys and see, are they really as talented a receiver as I think they should be? But if they keep a quarterback healthy, with Hitley going into his third year as the OC, with you have Baron Morton now, he's been in his third year playing on campus. This Taj Brooks, one of the best backs in the country. This should be a top 25 offense, in my opinion, from a production standpoint. It absolutely should. There's no reason if they are decent up front, it should be a top 25 offense. Defensively, obviously, we'll have to see, but I think this is a team that should be at least as good as it was last year, probably a little bit better. I don't know that I'm not ready to put them in the Big 12 title mix by any stretch. I think they're probably a couple tiers below the Kansas-Utah group, Oklahoma State, that top tier. But I think they should be a bowl team for sure. I think they should be a team that, if they don't win 8 games, I think I'd be disappointed.
What are your thoughts? Anything that you were like, when it came to the coaches poll being released earlier this week? Anything that came out of that you maybe noticed more than just the obvious of who was in it?
It's just really fascinating to me because of realignment, how much this has changed. You see no group of 5 teams in there, which, of course, I know the group of 5 has been a little bit decimated by realignment because some of those teams have moved up, but you're used to seeing one of those teams in there. And, you don't see Memphis in there or Liberty, who made the New Year's Six Bowl. So that was interesting to me. I was interested to see that Washington is, of course, the national runner-up last year. They didn't make the poll. That was interesting to me. Michigan falling to number 8, I'm not surprised. Ole Miss being a number 6 definitely opened my eyes a little bit, and I understand why. They've won 10 double-digit games, multiple years now. They finished in the top 11, I think, of the college football playoff final ranking 3 years running. They've loaded up in talent-wise in the portal this offseason. They got a lot coming back. They're a team that people are pegging as a playoff contender, but it's still interesting. You're not used to seeing Ole Miss as a preseason number 6 team. So that was interesting to me. Seeing the amount of Big 12 teams in there is super interesting, because for as much as people want to say, hey, it's the number 3 conference or whatever, or number 4, have this argument about the Big 12 and the ACC, and the Big 10 and the SEC are obviously ahead of them, but they had a really respectable showing in the poll. You have 5 teams, the third most of all the conferences in the country in that poll. So I think that's good for them. None in the top 10. I don't say I was surprised by that, but I would be willing to bet that one of them ends up in the top 10 by season 10.
Sam Kahn with us from theathletic.com. It joins us, and Sam and I are negotiating to have him on. I know it seems like we have him on all the time, but we're negotiating. Well, I mean, he's tough. He doesn't even have an agent. He's his own agent.
We've been seeing Sam for a long time, semi-regularly, and it's time to make a commitment.
Well, we're trying to.
We're trying to. Look, I think we're willing. I hope that Sam's willing. I hope he's in the same place. It's hard when you find out you're not in the same place in a friendship or relationship as the other person, but I think we could be.
You know what he said to me? He goes, I was going to take your original offer, but with Max leaving and his great friend that's at ESPN, it doubles what he wanted in return. And God knows, I just saw, and am I right? I just saw another one of the bigger names from the staff is leaving. Is it Nicole? Is it?
Yeah, Nicole Auerbach's last name.
Great stuff.
Yeah, we've had a lot of attrition this summer, but we will be okay.
You guys.
About this last week, but
I've said it.
We will be okay.
Yeah, I've said it. It's one of the few subscriptions that I pay for to get content is what I get from theathletic.com, and that's not going to change whatsoever. So we're good. It's part of the business, man. It does change. Sam, love having you on whenever we can. Thank you so much for your time, and have a great rest of the week.
Thanks, Smokey. Y'all take care.
Sam Kahn with us on 365 Sports on many things college football. We do appreciate it.